Well, good afternoon. Welcome back to AVX Live. This is episode 63. But today is totally different. We're going to do all sorts of fun stuff today. I'm Joe Gilderson, president of Corporate Audio Visual Services. Normally, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Ryan Finch. However, Mr. Finch is enjoying a vacation with his beautiful bride, Dana, down in the beaches of Florida. So we hope they're having a great time and they're enjoying their well-deserved trip. However, today's episode is entirely different. Just like you can see, the backdrop is different. Today, we are live at our 9th annual Pirate University training session. And in this particular case, we have a live audience in person. Audience, can we hear something, please? That was pretty good, right? And we didn't even hold up the applause sign. But we have a live audience in person. We have our normal audiences live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And we have an additional platform today, which is Hopin, because we're actually streaming the entire training session to Hopin, which is an interactive event platform. So right now, it's going everywhere. And so what we are looking for is your participation, because this is really a community type of event today. And so we're going to go about it a little bit differently. You can see I'm actually joined on stage by one Jim Marlowe.
Hi, everyone.
But before we get into all those little details, let me just remind you, now I do have a few extra things to do today, so give me a little bit of leeway in case I mess them up. But remember, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We are live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. We want you to hit the like and subscribe button because that's what you got to do, right?
Smash that button.
Smash that button. That's why he's here. He's Ed McMahon. I mean, you need Ed McMahon.
Yes.
After the show, there might be some little shark bites. Thank you, Andrew, over on Instagram and Facebook. But more importantly, we want you to drop us a comment, be a part of the show. And if you do, we have some T-shirts from Pirate University going out to some of our people who drop comments. So drop some comments. We'll say the first 5 that drop a comment, you get a T-shirt. Send them in. Let's hear what you got to say for yourself. Jim, you think we should?
Marissa doesn't count. No.
She doesn't count. I know she can't. She can't write it. But either way, look, I think we're going to get started. And yes, I mean she can't. She can't get a shirt, can she? I mean, I don't know. But because she does love swag. I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
And I love swag too. But Julia Salem Emmerich is.
Oh, well, Julia Salem. Okay,
in
then.
San Diego.
Sunny San Diego.
Sunny
We're
San
happy
Diego.
to mail the shirt to San Diego. Or we could drop it in Pleasantville. Either way is fine. But look, let's see if we can take some of that stuff off of here. What we're going to do is we are going to start by bringing on our guests, okay? You've met Jim Marlowe. Jim is currently retired, so I don't really know what he's doing here.
I don't either.
I think he thought it was Denny's and there was like a special or something at lunch. But
4:30 blue plate special.
But either way, Jim ran our operations team for probably 10 years or so, and he has come back to help us out in this particular discussion, and I think that's going to be really helpful. We are also going to bring in 2 remote guests. So we are going to start with my friend who's down in Florida. So I want to introduce Omar Colomb, head of AV Educate, training director at Evolve Technology, and a consummate professional. Omar, how we doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing over there? I'm sad we're not at Denny's though. I would have been there. I would have been eating pancakes with you, man, all the way.
Yeah, I like the breakfast special, you know.
You and me both. I'm all about breakfast.
Well, listen, we couldn't just bring on Omar. I mean, we also needed the big game. We need to bring on big game Ray Ovetsky, technical director, project manager, founding partner at E1 Productions. Ray is not only a great guy, but a tremendous musician. Let's welcome Ray Ovetsky.
Wow. Thank you so much. An honor and a privilege, really, truly. Thank you so much.
And so we have 2 people live. We have 2 people remote. One's in Florida. One is in the astoundingly beautiful Astoria, Queens. So
Yasu,
we're really
Queens.
covering everything today. But listen, our topic today is somewhat unusual. right? A production company usually isn't going to address how to be better at something for other production companies. But the reality is the last couple of years have changed a lot of our industry. And so it only makes sense if we're doing training that we help you in every regards. And so it was actually Omar's idea, Omar, great thought, on the topic to be how to excel at being a freelancer. So that's what we're going to cover today. But before we get into some details, let's see if these guys are actually qualified to have this discussion. Ray, I'm going to start with you. Ray, what would make you qualified in 1 minute or less to have this discussion?
Well, I started as a freelancer, and for the most part, I still am a freelancer. So I think for the past, I don't mind giving away my age. Let's see, I started at 20 years of age, and I'm at the beautiful, ripe age of 66 now. So that tells you that I've been doing freelance work basically for 46 years.
You're just
So
a kid.
there's quite a bit that I can look back at and, just say it's been the best to be part of this industry. I'm still engaged, still love doing it. And hey, that's why I'm here.
Excellent. That is it. You seem qualified. You can stay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Jim Marlowe, let's go to you. Why are you qualified? And now 1 minute or less. I'm giving you a timer.
I understand that. Well, basically, I've been working in the audiovisual, television, and video industry for as long as Ray has, and have worked for many of the big companies that have either dominated the AV industry at one time or currently do, and have continued to work both as a staff member and a freelancer throughout the years.
Okay. All right. Do it, guys. Yay, nay? What do we think? All right. You're in. You're in. All right, Omar, we're coming to you. How are you qualified to have this discussion?
Well, I feel like I got to go back here and bring some street cred here because I'm with some of the OGs. So I am second generation AV. So my father has an AV company. That's how I got it in.
Oh, yeah.
And then I also teach from the stagehand level to the engineer level how to stay in the industry, do that, and propel that. And I also help other people as well to kind of propel that knowledge and the skill sets for stagehand engineers. And I've done talks like this similar in the past, which I hope has helped people. And I assume it has because they keep coming back and asking me for stuff.
Okay, so would you say that you're a mentor?
I would say I'm a mentor to some, yeah.
I love that.
Wow. All right. All right. Omar can stay then, right? I mean, he seems like he's qualified to me. Okay. All right. So listen, Omar, how did you get into this? You said second generation. How did you get into this?
Yeah, so my dad owns an AV company down in South Florida called Media Stage. So I kind of grew up in the industry. My brother does cinematography down in Puerto Rico with the union. I have an uncle in Vegas who does lighting lighting and power. And then I have another uncle here in South Florida as well who does lighting as well. So I kind of grew up in the environment, saw it all the time. In high school, did the same theater, did production, stayed in it, did, short stint in the military to serve my country, and then came back into the family business and been doing it for the last 13, 14 years now.
Wow. There you go. There you go. That's a hell of an AV history right there. I mean, that's the tree, right? The AV tree.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And I had a call. I can make a call to people when I was struggling when I started out. So that was a huge advantage.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? And that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to help people learn how to get better at this. Jim, how long did you actually freelance, and how long before you got good at it? I guess.
Well, for me, it was an interesting path because I would work as a staff for a company for many years. Then I would find myself back in the job market, been given opportunities to be freelancer. And I would do that until someone else hired me as a staff position for years and then continue in this cycle throughout the years. In between 2000 and 2002, I actually ended up doing a lot of freelance at a really high level. And for Microsoft and for television and for, Discovery Channel and and at that point I'd known, then I could tell that my chops were like at the level they needed to be.
Okay. So, but it took a number of years.
Oh yeah.
And it sounded like you chose a path.
For the most part, I was always a staff person, but like I said, working freelance becomes an option as you go along and you find yourself suddenly needing to work. The option is work or work as a freelancer. Obviously you'll take the work. Yeah, of course.
And so the video side, I'm guessing.
Video, when I was working at Staging Techniques, again, as I told the people earlier, you find a niche and you evolve to it. They had a video department, but nobody ran the video department. And I offered to do that. And at some point, they decided that that was a good idea. And that's how I got started in video.
Makes sense. Hey, Ray, how about you? How'd you get started?
Well, I was always a musician and a player. I just had a passion for just kind of noodling with electronics a little bit, and took my fair share of shocks and learned about capacitors at a very early age. My dad worked at Grumman Aerospace, and he said, "Hey, Ray, we have a program here for employees and family members. Would you like to maybe learn some electronics?" And I did, and I really enjoyed it because it really gave me and opened up my eyes to, besides playing music, just really understanding how music electronically was made, and the amplifiers and all the great things we were doing back then really came into focus and sense. So it was passion. So I would say for many of you out there, you build off a passion. You love something, you want to know something about it, and you delve into it, and you want to know more, and you want to be fed. And so you pursue that. And so for me, Grumman Aerospace Electronics, in 9 months, taught me everything that was equivalent of an associate's degree. I ended up working for Harman Kardon as a bench tech, and then pursued music. Got a job at arguably one of the biggest music stores on the East Coast called EU Wurlitzer up in Boston while I was going to Berkeley. And from there, I launched my career going on the road with many big touring bands.
So it sounds like really sound was kind of your way in.
Passion. I just love music. I love playing, but I like the gear. I like the aspect of, customizing gear was a really big thing back then. It still is, by the way, So how do you customize pedal boards? How do you make the Marshalls jump channels so that you can have over distortion? How do you get crown amplifiers to take a send from this side of the stage to the next side? I had a wonderful mentor, by the way. I think mentoring is really key.
Yes.
My mentor was an incredible technician named Dave Raudebush, who ended up working for DBX and Harman. And Dave just configured all this custom gear that we made for Parliament, Funkadelic, Aerosmith, Boston, and a whole bunch of groups that were just really wanted to push the limits of what they were doing on the stage in order for it to sound like the record and to be durable and to last and to really have a very good performance on stage while they toured.
Cool. Wow, that's pretty awesome. We try to tell everybody it's not all Dee Snider events, but I mean, but it is pretty cool when they come along, though, because it's always inevitably someone's first event that they get to work like the coolest event. They didn't do the other, 150 terrible events, but they did the one cool one, and then they're hooked, like that's what we needed. But interesting because you guys have kind of come from different paths in and chosen somewhat some specialties, but it's certainly all about that passion. Yeah. Whether it's from technology or it's from music or it's the family has passed it along and like it's ingrained in your head. But, I'm going to send this question over to Omar. Omar, you're seeing a lot of different people now in the training that you're doing between AV Educate and Evolve. What do you think are some of the key characteristics and maybe the skills that people have developed to excel and really be a high-level freelancer?
Yeah, so some of the key things I think that separates people from each other, right, is the willingness to learn and continue to keep that mind open about what it is I'm trying to achieve and kind of going towards that path. There's a lot of people that come in and they want to do I just want to be here and kind of learn all of it. And it's like master one thing first and then progress forward, right? Don't try to be the unicorn right off the bat because that's not going to work. It's you got to get in the field. If you're a stagehand right now, don't be, I guess what I gotta say the most thing is be proactive about what you're doing. A lot of guys that I see that are coming to the classes and training are very proactive about that, about the learning, about the experiences, about the hands-on portion of it. They're not being passive. They're not waiting for that phone call. They're not waiting for the thing. They're going out and they're looking for it. They're looking for the work. They're communicating with the people they need to. They're looking for the training. They're getting that training. And then they're not just sitting on it. They're saying, hey, they're letting their contacts know, I got this training XYZ. how, can you put me on shows for that? And if it's not happening, they're reminding them, hey, don't forget, I can do this now. I got the training on it. I just need more experience. And a lot more labor companies and clients are willing to give you that shot if you've put in the work yourself and been proactive about it. They're more likely to say, you know what, I have a show coming up. It's a smaller role. Let's see what you can do. Let's see what you learned. Let's see if it's good enough. And that can lead to the next show, the next show, the next show in that position. So the main thing I see is people that are, in my fields particularly, is people being proactive more. And the ones that I'm not seeing, I see are the ones that are being passive and not really, they're waiting for that phone call. They're waiting for the opportunity to show up. They're waiting for it, right? And that's great up to a certain point, because it's not always going to just pop up. If you're actively searching for something or actively looking for something, then it's going to happen. And it's what I think divides people all the time in what we're doing in the industry. Even when I do jobs right now in show site, I see the guys who are actively looking for that next thing to get done for the team versus the people that are sitting back waiting for that next task to be told to do, right? And there's a difference there being, hey, I need to tell you every step what to do versus, hey, I need to know with these cable runs. Can you run this out? Hey, I ran out those 2 lines. Which are the next ones you need? That guy I'm going to remember more versus the guy that I have to hunt down every single time to get to do the next step.
Well, I think you've touched on a couple of really important points there. Before I get to your second one, because I know that Jim can probably has something to say about the second one, but on the first point where you mentioned about people getting the training and then doing something about it, right? First of all, you got to communicate it to people. There's no way for corporate AV to know that you just learned how to use the XYZ 1000. I won't know that. You know, if I had known somebody was Barco certified this past week, I would have had a project for them. So we were looking for people who are Barco certified. Instead, we took a different path. But either way, that's an important thing, being able to communicate, especially any new skills. And to go to your point about communicating and going out and searching for those opportunities, Omar, again, if you have a new skill, especially if you just paid money for it, like this is your time to brag now and communicate to people. And you let them know right away, you are going to get work, guaranteed, if you communicate and you're the one reaching out. So that's just my 2 cents. Now, I bet you got something to say about the second point specifically.
Very, very interesting, because we had a session earlier today, and the words that were used in that session keep coming up in this session. And the first one was passion. Not too many people go into this business just because they're looking for a job. They usually have some kind of passion. They actually want to do what they're doing. They not just want to, but they're obsessed about it. And Ray pointed that out very clearly. And then the other word was opportunity, and which we all just mentioned. And that was the same thing, that opportunities are available, but you have to see them. You have to recognize them. I mentioned the one where I saw the ecological niche that I could evolve to. And I said, oh, I will run your video department. You know, you see opportunities and then you offer yourself as a solution, you know, and that's what Omar is talking about. These people that aren't just sitting waiting for something to happen to them, but they're literally making it happen for themselves. And then the other side of it, we talked about mentors too, that there's someone on the other end that is willing to say, yeah, you took initiative, do it, you know, take care of that. And it all works together, and it creates a symbiotic world in our business that helps all of us.
Excellent. Now, Ray, I would imagine you have something you could probably add on to this too, because I mean, on many of our jobs, we've had Ray as the one who's usually in charge of the job, you know? So whether it's on the technical side or it's the whole project, you know, Ray, what do you think are some of the skills and the characteristics of the people who really do the best work out there?
So I think we're probably addressing an audience of people that really are looking for the secret to freelance, right? How do I get in? You know, there's probably a lot of you that are saying, listen, I'm ready. I'm good to go. I just want to know how to get in and start freelancing. I will say this, you better have a base, a fundamental base of some kind of knowledge and real skill set. Dressing, speaking, having the website, that's all well and good, I guess. But you better have a foundation of a real tried and true skill set, whether it's electronics, whether it's electrics, whether it's logistics, admin, budgeting, whatever. Many times as freelancers, we've pulled together and honed a whole bunch of different skill sets, but there's always been a base that I could rely on. And for me, it was electronics. And it was a very important skill set because it made me valuable in understanding what skill I could bring to the table. And then you have all the personal dynamics that Jim and Omar just said, being on time, just not waiting to be directed, jumping in. Hey, do you need help with that? Hey, I got a second, you see someone on a ladder, they're struggling, or, there's all these different dynamics. So what I will say that is, first and foremost, concentrate on a real skill set. If sound is what you want to do, then you probably should really get in front of Digico boards or an Avid, a console. You should also understand the old school analog consoles, the old Mackies and what have you. You need to familiarize microphones and all the different aspects of low impedance, high impedance, balanced, all the aspects of your industry. If you don't have that, then what you're asking is, hey, listen, I'm a great worker, I'm strong, I'm going to be here on time, I have a heart for service, but that's not enough. You've got to have that knowledge base. You can build on that knowledge base, but ensure that you have that foundation. I think that's really important to freelancing.
I think that makes a lot of sense, Ray, because as an employer, many times when we're actually looking for people, we're looking for a particular skill. Not all the times. There's many times where generalists and general skills, especially on the lower level projects, like they're going to apply. Today, I'm working on sound. Tomorrow, I'm working on video. All right, I'm setting up the lighting trees. So those are all the day-to-day normal things, which is necessary, 100% necessary. And then there's other things that are definitely specialist types of roles. It used to be everybody that came through our door was an A1. And we'd ask a few qualifying questions, and they were clearly not an A1. So that is the most overused term out there, I think. Because there are particular things that would make you an A1. And I think that's like a starting point. And it's easy for that to get flushed out. Funny thing is what I've noticed personally, because I don't have the skills that all you guys have, is a lighting person will not tell you that they can do something that they can't do. A video person usually will not tell you they can do something. They're not going to say I can run the Ascender or the Aquilon or the Pixel 4. They're not going to say they can do it if they can't do it. An audio person will tell you they can. That's the scary thing. And then they get this big environment like, well, I don't know how to use this. You're like, well, you needed to say that. Right. So I think, you're right, Ray, having the skills, just learning your craft, and being realistic at the same point, I think is a critical tool, Where
are you going to start? I got to tell you, a great place to start is churches. I mean, church is a really great place to start. A lot of them have some pretty sophisticated systems. I've mentored quite a few people that wanted to be, A1s, but they also had to understand lighting and they learned personal dynamics. But they started on some digital consoles and learned. And you know what? It wasn't a high pressure situation. If you made a mistake, okay, it wasn't happy to make a mistake. But, if you go work for Joe at Corporate AV and, you're in the middle of a show and it's a big client and you unplug something and something goes down, that can be devastating. And you want to get your chops together. There's many things to learn, and you need to learn somewhere. And schools and churches and non-for-profits are a great place to start, guys. Really, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Excellent. That's very helpful. Very helpful. I have some things that I'm sure people are probably wondering, even though I think these are the most important things. Really, building the foundation is certainly the most important thing, developing the skills. While we're on the skill topic, Omar, what would you recommend? How would people, how would they find training?
So obviously there's AV Educate, which is a free resource, which everybody just shares, classes that are coming up, whether free or paid for, gets shared to the group. So that's a resource that's available to anybody in the community to just get on there and either share something they've seen or provide a class of any form. And then obviously you can also go to the manufacturer route or go to companies like Evolve, for example, where we have trainers on staff who are certified to train in lieu of the manufacturer or for the manufacturer in a scenario in the classroom like I have here. So those are some options you can do right there. Obviously, audio's got a huge, history, a huge background. There's a plethora of options for how you can do that online. There's tons of groups you can follow and people you can mentor with. I think Ray had said it a little bit earlier. Getting a mentor, someone who can you can shadow for a little bit is huge. And don't be afraid. I know there's this whole thing about like always get paid for your work, but don't be afraid to say, "Hey, can I come up in the show for free just to get the hands on with and get the experience?" That is way more important down the road for you than anything else will be. One thing I like to say all the time is, particularly when talking about audio, is knowing what a fader does and when to use that fader are two completely separate things. And if it's the first time you've heard that, you're probably thinking, "What's the difference?" But if you're experienced, you're like, "Oh yeah, there's a difference." Knowing what a fader goes up and down and what it does is great, but knowing when to do that and when's the right time for that moment is a totally different situation. So experience versus education, right? And I think a lot of times people, they get a little flustered about those things. But sorry, back on point. Research online if you're doing audio. I mean, there's a plethora of options, right? There's groups you can go to. There's webpages you can go to. For video's limited, which is why I was driven towards that direction. But video, there are options out there. AV Educate, Evolve's out there, Nationwide's out there, T3 Academy's out there. Infocom's also a good resource. I did that 10 years ago, and even though it's more installation, there's still a lot of fundamental knowledge, like you guys were saying a little earlier. There's a lot of fundamental knowledge that still applies to the industry as a whole. The one thing about corporate AV that I think people get a little flustered with is that we do not have a foundational path, right? There's no clear path to this, but we pull from every other industry. If you want to do video, we pull from theater, we pull from cinema, we pull from the rental staging, right? You want to do audio, you guys pull from live events, from touring, from installations. You guys pull gear from all, and it's all used in different manners, but we use it from everywhere. I mean, video, a bunch of stuff that we use now could be broadcast. There's very few products, right, like Analog Way and Barcode that are very specific to our industry, right? Blackmagic Design, very specific to our industry. But there's a lot of other products we use, like the Tetronic behind me here. That's used all the time. Is it specific to corporate AV? No, but it's specific for installations and for broadcast and for cinema because it needs to get used to get those accurate images. So don't feel afraid to learn things outside of what you think needs to be learned at, because that will cross over and it will be part of what we're doing. Like you were saying earlier, get a skill set that's foundational on something, because you can just build on that from there and keep going forward. Don't be afraid. And one thing I just want to mention real quick that we're not saying yet that I think is also a key, more so than just the technical skills. Don't be afraid to be that breakout guy. Breakouts are chaotic. You're a one-man band. You're doing a lot of things on your own, and you're dealing with the client. And if you can master managing your time in the chaos on the soft skills, not just the hard skills of the technical side, which everybody loves to learn about stuff, and obviously it's what I teach the most of, but on the soft skill sides, if you can manage that room, because the client's not going to talk about, hey, he messed this up, he messed up. They're always going to talk about that. That's irrelevant. What they're going to talk about is, hey, I went into this room and Omar was just super polite. We had a bunch of problems, but he solved it. He did a great job. They're going to report that back to the owners and to the labor companies. They always report those types of things. Not so much the technical stuff. They can get past it if you're a good person and you're hospitable. But if you're just not a good person, you're just rude and irrelevant, it becomes, hey, all this was wrong and that guy was rude to me, or he disrespected me, or XYZ. Yes. That information always gets back more than anything else. I could tell you a ton of times where I was in leadership role and someone was running a breakout room and they said, hey, we had some problems, not a big deal. Omar solved it. He was very good at what he did. We just had a couple of problems. It downplays it because you're a good communicator, you're hospital. And a lot of times we forget in what we do, we are not just technicians, but we're also in the hospitality industry, and people are expecting a higher level of from us as far as communication goes. And sometimes we fail that because we get so stuck on the nitty gritty of the technical side, we fail to just be good on the personable side. And I think, I saw you guys shaking your heads. That is the number one thing that'll come back constantly. You can have things go wrong, but if your technicians are good people, they will downplay that. Hey, we had a couple problems, but you guys were good. Versus, hey, we had a couple problems, which probably weren't a big deal, but that crew was a complete because of XYZ reasons. I don't want to see that here again.
Yeah, that's that we talk about that all the time here, Omar, because in reality, most of our projects are somewhat repeatable types of events, and they're fairly similar in their design. They're fairly similar with the technology. The difference being that it's always about how the people on site communicate with the client. They're usually in very close contact. And that relationship, I mean, usually the client is very stressed. That's what I've seen, is that when they're on site, they're a little high strung. Okay, it's their biggest event, it's their biggest moment, and they're at a 12. So they are counting on all of us just to dial them down and smile a little and just say, hey, no, we got the technical part covered. We were working on this thing, but we got it covered. We seem to be going the right direction. So if you need something, come on back. We're right here. Because they're just looking for support. And if they know that you got your part covered, they kind of, lighten up. And then they start to smile. And then they start to laugh. And then your day is better on top of that, because now they're less tense. But what you said is right on point. We are in the service business 100%. And yes, we achieved that through technology.
Yes.
We are definitively in the service business, no question. When we were just talking about places you could get training, we did have, we had Barry Grossman chime in. He said, there's also the University of New York, College of Technology.
Barry is an excellent engineer and has been for years.
And, he had more comments. He seems to agree with the soft skills, because that is very important, especially as you go further along in your education and in your skills. That becomes sometimes the bigger thing. So I think, Barry, you got a great point there. Great point. But I have some other. Do you guys have, Ray, do you have any other suggestions on where people might be able to find training before we move on to something else?
Listen, it's a self-motivating proposal. Okay, if you really want to do this, you're going to scour all the resources. You're going to check manufacturers out. You're going to find seminars, even like right now, what we're doing. Is it hidden? No, but you got to work a little bit. You got to go out and find out where you're going to go and get that training specifically. Listen, the biggest one I always get is I want to go out, and I want to go out with bands on the road. How do I go on the road as an audio tech? And for the most part, it's that's an A game kind of position. Now, yeah, sure, there's you want to call them A3s, A4s, where you're just going to hump and you're going to do cable and you're going to follow direction, and there are those jobs, and that's a great place to start, but they're far and few. Like I said, where you're going to find manufacturers, I think, studying, just really knowing, even places like Guitar Center, for that matter of fact, you can start there and work in the pro audio department. They have fantastic training, believe it or not, at Guitar Center. I'm not ashamed to say that I did a small stint at Guitar Center. I enjoyed it, and I actually learned quite a bit. Learned all about. They had a great program that really trained you on everything. For example, on the history of Fender guitars, Gibson guitars, amplifiers. I mean, there was a lot of things that I said, oh, gee, I really didn't know that. That's really great. Pro audio, same thing. Lighting as well. So there's places to start, folks. There really are. You've got to be willing to scour and find out what's going to work best for you.
Very well said. Very well said, guys. Well, hopefully this gives you some different places, to think about, because that's what this is all. It's all about getting better, and improving. And part of the reason we do like a bigger setup for this is because you have to actually do it, right? That's the best way to learn, is you got to get your hands on stuff and you have to actually do the work.
Yeah.
And then it starts to sink in a little bit more, and you get a feel for things. All right, I got a couple of different questions for you guys. So I'm on my own. How do I determine what companies I should work for? And how do I find those companies? And Jim, I'm going to start with you on this one.
All right. I do want to, as I'm going into this conversation, I want to mention something I've been thinking about once I realized we were going to do this today. And that is that as a freelancer, you have to represent different companies on different days, right? So you're a corporate AV guy one day and you're working for somebody else the next day. And every day you still have to be that guy for that group, So in regards to finding places to work, obviously, one, and we were talking about this before, research. So you go online, you go on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is like the bomb at this point. And, we're talking about training. You can also find training on LinkedIn.
Can't say bomb.
Who can't say bomb, apparently. Okay. Oh, right. So it's the goods. Can I say that?
Yeah. That's okay.
So the you find out names of companies and people who work in the business. Now that's one of the ways is obviously by working in the business. You're on a gig, you talk to these people that you're working with. So who else do you work with? And if they're nice, they'll tell you. If they're real secretive, maybe they won't tell you. And then you start calling all those people. Some people will give you leads, like you say, hey, call so and so, call Bob, call Will Austin, or call Sherelle. And that's the best way in is finding out names of the people who are actually doing the hiring. If you could do that, for corporate type AV companies, obviously for working for industry companies, that's harder. And it's harder even for us to find sales with, companies and businesses and stuff like that. But if you're just looking for other AV companies and video companies, television companies, or whatever, then like I said, one, do research, and two, when you do get gigs, start asking around and see if people can put you in touch with the person. Usually people will be very helpful. It gets we're talking about mentoring, same idea. People want to help. Most people want to help. So say, hey, who do you know over there? Oh, call, Sherelle. Sherelle's the person that's doing, the hiring at this point. Oh, do you have a number for it? Usually they'll give you the number. So that way you can put together a bunch of possibilities, and then it's just going on a job first time, and they're going to say, hey, I need you at 6:30 in the morning tomorrow morning. And if you're not booked, you should say yes. Like, okay, yeah, I'll be there. And then you have to go and do a good job. They say 90% is showing up, but it's showing up. And then, as Ray said, having some kind of skills and technical expertise once you get there, doing a good job, but not just doing a good job, but showing people that you know something.
I think that's well said. Omar, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah.
As far as how you would find or determine who you want to work with?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I wanted to add is really, not to call people out, but drop some of that ego everybody has going on this, pre-pandemic going on forward, is that drop some of that ego, because take the labor gig, take that gig. That's the easiest way to get something money-wise, right? To get paid for something and to meet new clients, meet new people. And don't just go to the job site, keep your head down and do the job. Go to the job site, do your job, talk to people that are there, talk to the crews, talk to the client, talk to the leads, see who you can befriend a little bit. That way you can get more work from those contacts. Like you're saying earlier, do a good job so that you are recognized for what you're doing, right? Put in the effort, put in the work, but also do that labor stuff. I did labor for years before I went, and like had what I felt was the chops, right? I did, a backstory here real quick, Media Stage for 6 years. I started off in the carpeting department, became lead video engineer, then went freelancing without using my reputation for anything, just freelance as myself. I did that for a while. And it took me about 6 to 8 months. Obviously, I was already a V1, but I started at the bottom, pushing cases again, just so I could meet more clients, new clients. And then people started to see what I was. They saw my skill set. And like you guys were saying earlier, they started to say, hey, you actually know a lot about video. Why don't you do this? And I was like, well, I'm hired by XYZ. It's not really what I'm doing today. Oh, here's my contact. Give me a call. I'll get you some work. Cool. 7 months later, I started doing only V1 work because I met all these new clients. So I went from, I was an in-house guy for 6 years to now, within less than a year of me literally taking all kinds of jobs in different positions because I was a competent L2, A2, V2, and people seeing my skill set and me seeing when I'm talking to them saying, hey, I know about this, I can help with this, I can do this, I can get that done. And then they're saying, hey, you know what you're talking about. But again, I put in that legwork for almost a year and hit the ground doing the grunt work as much as I could so I could meet new people. And I talked and I socialized and I got contacts and I followed up. Right. Again, proactively, I followed up with those people. Yeah. So if you want to do that, if you want to work, for example, for touring, get with Rhino, get with Black Magic. I mean, get in that position where you're on that roster to get into those buildings at the time when they're doing those shows. Get in the roster, get to meet those people, get to meet the guys that are doing the touring, see who they're working for. Reach out after. Hey, you work for this company? Oh, let me make a note of that. I'll reach out afterwards. Right. No one's going to know who you are unless you're there trying to make yourself known. You can't just ask random people and expect for results, especially if you're asking the guy who's also doing the same position you're doing. He's in the same boat you're in. You need to keep pushing past that.
It sounds like it always comes back to communicating and being proactive about your career. We did have someone via LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I don't have your name right here, but they said go check out AES. Okay, that's going to be at Jacob Javits this fall. There's courses, meet other people. If that's the path you're trying to go, that's another great suggestion. Thank you. But that's part of it. We're trying to give you the places to look, the skills that you're going to need. All right. I'm going to take one. These are the things that we only got a couple of minutes here, so we'll try to go quick and easy. Hey Ray, if I'm a freelancer, how do I budget for taxes and healthcare and stuff like that?
So listen, the nature of freelancing is companies need to expand in order to meet the needs of their client's project, and then they contract back again. So freelancers come in and fill that void, and they're very important. So as a freelancer, it depends on really where you're at. Are you married? Do you have a family? Are you out of college? Are you young? Or, you know, listen, there are tax implications, and you need to be aware that when you get paid a gross amount, chances are, you know, you're very responsible for your taxes, let alone health insurance and workers' comp and everything. So you can think about starting your own corporation or your own company to, if you have enough work and you're starting to really get on your feet as a freelancer, it makes sense to do that. First of all, you're mandated to do that. Okay. You got to pay your taxes,
Yes.
and having health insurance and having a workers' compensation. Listen, in every industry that's physical, and our industry is very physical, you can get hurt, and no one thinks about it. But, you know, in general, you've got to be covered. As a matter of fact, I don't get to freelance for companies unless I can prove that I have a workers' compensation policy, a general liability, and umbrella, and so on and so forth. And that makes me very hireable, by the way. Okay. And I do a lot of freelance for a lot of companies, NCAA, MKTG, Momentum, all those companies. They have an HR department. And, you know, if you don't have that, then they have to say, well, then we have to hire this as a 1099 employee and be responsible for taking taxes out. And sometimes for a lot of liability and exposure reasons, they don't want to do that. Other cases they will, especially if you're on a labor force and, you know, you're doing a stagehand work, and they're used to that. They have those policies in place. So there's a balance. Much to what Omar said, you know, if you're going to represent yourself and kind of be like a hired gun, so to speak, having those things in place are important. So you want to look at that. You know, there's an accountant, friend of the family, you know, a family friend, a parent, or whatever. It depending on what freelance job you have, it could be a big priority to have that in place.
Excellent. Well, see that's a good point. See, that's part of why, if you guys notice as you work with us, most of the people that work with us, we don't really call it freelance. We call it part-time, because you're on a part-time payroll, mainly because you don't have those things he was talking about, insurances. You know, the workers' comp in New York is the huge thing. So you can't be an independent contractor without workers' comp. It's different in each state, but in the end, it's where you work. And so here, if you work in New York, you need to have workers' comp. Somebody must pay it, you know, and they'll have everybody pay it if they could. But either way, it's the people who are technically, for us as independent contractors, do have those things, just like Ray was saying. You know, and there are advantages and disadvantages to every situation. But I encourage everybody, you know, send some notes out, communicate, ask other people. You know, we're talking about mentorship. Ask other people who've been doing this for a while if you get some questions, because a lot of people are very, you know, willing to help. And I think in the beginning stages, I think these are some of the things you figure out. But you know, I think we've really hit our normal time, but I want to see if there's any actual questions from the audience for Omar or Ray or Jim. So first of all, let's look at our in-house audience. Any questions here? Anything you want to put out to these guys? Okay, I don't see any hands. So Alexa, do we have anybody on the Hopin side? Okay, people like your advice, gentlemen. I mean, I don't know why, but they do. I guess because we've determined that you're qualified. I guess that's a big part of it. That's it. Well, then I won't ask the last question. I was going to say, how do you determine your rate? But nobody's got any questions, so there's no reason to even cover that.
They don't need their rate.
What do they need that for? I mean, I don't know.
The market determines that. I mean, you'll find out.
The market does determine that. They determine what we can do too. So it is the same on every side. But I mean, you know, on the AV Educate side, I would imagine there's a lot of people that communicate and go back and forth online. Omar, is that they probably have their own little circles where they're having that discussion?
Yes. Yeah. Discord has it a lot. Our Discord page has it a lot. We have micro chats a lot, and then there is an option for mentorship that people click on a lot, so they get to get some one-on-one, hands-on with different people about different things. So we've created some generic numbers that we give out when we have this exact conversation here to people that help them just like get a definitive answer in their mind around a general number. Because, like we said earlier, your life circumstances change those things, but there are some defined kind of set points where if you get to these points, you should be doing this anyways.
Yeah, I think that's it. So look, I encourage everyone to ask different questions and reach out to, any of our guests here. They're all willing to help, and that's why they're on this show today. And of course, you have everybody else here today. Communicate. Part of this is connecting and learning from others. For your younger guys, it's trying to find out what skills you need first. For you older guys, it's about mentoring and trying to help another soul in your life. But it's all good stuff. Well, listen, gentlemen, this show runs on a clock, so this is part of it. I'm going to start booting you guys off soon, and maybe I won't. Maybe I won't boot you guys off. You guys all stay on. We're all going to say goodbye together. How's that? I don't let Ryan do this because it goes right to his head. We try to boot him off immediately, but he's got all the controls, so I usually can't. But listen, just a couple of recaps. Okay, we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can find us every Wednesday at 1 p.m. here at AVX Live. We always encourage you to drop a comment, be a part of the show. I know I'm sending a shirt out to Julia Emmerich out there in sunny San Diego right now.
And smash the button.
Man, he's good. He's good. This guy's got it. Ed McMahon, you're good. You're good.
Yes.
Well, listen, gentlemen, now's your time to say your goodbyes.
All right. I will say it's great to have a mentor, and it's great to be a mentor.
Wow. Well said. Well said.
Amen.
Ray, any parting words?
Yeah, make sure you show up with your Leatherman, a flashlight, and some gloves.
Exactly.
Excellent advice. Omar.
Yeah, as you guys can see here, the generation above us right now that kind of made this industry is getting older. They're retiring. They're getting out. They're looking to mentor somebody to take their places. So be in the watch out for those guys because they're out there. You get them here giving back to the community right now. You're living proof of that. So anybody who's young and interested and hungry for this industry, these guys they're getting older. They want to pass that knowledge along. They don't want it to disappear. They're looking for people to mentor. So be that person. Be that guy. Be on the lookout.
Excellent. Really well said. Hey, thank you guys for all of your help today in training everyone. And everyone, come on back. AVX Live will be in its normal surroundings next week. But please join us on Hopin for the rest of Pirate University. We have RCF coming on and Tariq, and we're going to have an excellent discussion about sound and speakers and all that fun stuff that makes noise. So listen, you guys have a great day. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao. We are out.